There's a specific number that scares the Federal Reserve more than any inflation report, more than any unemployment number, and more than any stock market crash. That number is $74. To most people, $74 is just a price. It's a target for silver on a trading chart. But to historians and those who study systemic collapse, $74 is not a price. It is a signal. It is the mathematical moment where the illusion of the US dollar finally breaks, and the global financial system enters stage 7 of a cycle that has destroyed every reserve currency for the last 500 years. Right now, silver is trading in a range that defies the laws of supply and demand. We are facing the largest physical shortage in history. Industrial demand from solar panels and electric vehicles is consuming silver faster than we can mine it. Registered inventories at the COMEX, the vault that supposedly backs the price, are bleeding out. And yet, the price remains suppressed. Why? Because silver is the truth teller. It is the one asset that historically signals the death of a fiat currency. When silver breaks free from its suppression, when it crosses the mathematical threshold of $74, it signals that the market has lost faith in the government's ability to control the system. We are currently in stage 5 of the collapse pattern. Currency debasement. We are printing trillions to cover debts we cannot pay. But the transition to stage 6, loss of confidence, is triggered by a specific event. In Rome, it was the rejection of the denarius by soldiers. In Weimar Germany, it was the refusal of farmers to sell food for paper marks. In the United States, the trigger is the price of silver. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is a supply-demand equation that is about to resolve itself violently. The paper market says silver is plentiful. The physical market says it is gone. When those two realities collide, the price doesn't just go up. It resets the entire monetary system. In this video, I'm going to show you the 7-stage collapse pattern that explains why the dollar is dying. I will show you why the government has spent 150 years trying to destroy silver as money. I will show you the specific math behind the $74 price target. And most importantly, I will show you why this is not an investment opportunity. It is an exit strategy from a burning building. We are at the end of the timeline. The countdown has started, and it ends at $74. Before we look at the history, you need to understand the mechanism. Why silver? Why not gold? Why not oil? Why is silver the specific metal that brings down empires? The answer lies in a concept called Gresham's law and the difference between money and currency. Gold is the money of kings. It sits in central bank vaults. It doesn't move. It is the ultimate store of value. But it is too valuable for daily transactions. Silver is the money of the people. It is the money of wages, of bread, of commerce. Because silver is used in the real economy, it reacts to inflation faster and more violently than gold. When a government destroys its currency, silver is the first thing to vanish from circulation. We saw this in 1964 in the United States. The government was printing too much money to pay for the Vietnam War and the Great Society programs. The inflation made the silver in quarters and dimes worth more than the face value of the coins. If a quarter was worth 25 cents in paper money, but the silver inside it was worth 28 cents, people hoarded the coins. They disappeared from circulation overnight. This is Gresham's law. Bad money drives out good. The paper dollar, bad money, drove out the silver coins, good money. But today, the mechanism is different. Today, the government doesn't just debase the coins, they suppress the price of the metal itself through the paper market. For every ounce of physical silver that actually exists in a vault, there are hundreds of paper ounces traded on the COMEX and London markets. These are claims on silver that doesn't exist. Banks sell these paper claims to drive the price down, creating the illusion that supply is high. This keeps the dollar looking strong. If silver were allowed to trade at its true physical value, it would expose the fact that the dollar has lost 98% of its purchasing power. Silver at $74 isn't just a high price, it is the inflation-adjusted truth. It is the price silver would be if you stripped away the manipulation and measured it against the trillions of dollars printed since 1980. The mechanism of collapse works like this. The government prints money to pay debts, stage 5. Real inflation rises, but they suppress gold and silver prices with paper derivatives to hide it. Physical demand, industries, investors, drains the actual metal from the vaults because the price is artificially low. The vaults run empty. The paper scam breaks. The price explodes to its true value, 74 plus. Confidence in the currency collapses, stage 6. The currency is replaced, stage 7. We are currently at step 4. The vaults are draining. The paper claims are skyrocketing. The math says the break is imminent. Now, let me prove to you that this has happened before. The first clear example of this pattern is ancient Rome. Rome didn't fall because of barbarians. It fell because of silver. The Roman currency was the denarius. It was a silver coin, roughly the size of a dime, and it was 95% pure silver. This was the reserve currency of the ancient world. If you were a merchant in Syria, a soldier in Gaul, or a trader in Egypt, you accepted the denarius, because you knew it contained a fixed amount of silver. But Rome had a problem. They had stage 1, military overextension, and stage 2, massive debts. The emperors needed more money to pay the legions and fund the bread and circuses for the mob, but they couldn't mine enough silver. So they chose stage 5, debasement. Nero began the process in 64 AD by reducing the silver purity to 90%. It seemed harmless. Even the coin looked the same, but the math had changed. Trajan dropped it to 85%, Marcus Aurelius to 75%, Septimius Severus to 50%. By the time of Gallienus in 260 AD, the denarius was only 5% silver. It was a copper slug dipped in a thin wash of silver. The government said it was worth 1 denarius. The soldiers said no. This is the moment of stage 6, loss of confidence. The soldiers, who were paid in these coins, realized they were being cheated. They demanded higher wages to compensate for the worthless coins. The paper price, the face value of the coin, diverged from the physical price, the silver content. Then came the collapse. The Roman economy reverted to barter. Trade routes shut down because no one trusted the currency. The complex economy of the empire disintegrated into local feudalism. The Dark Ages were essentially a monetary collapse caused by the removal of silver from the system. Rome teaches us the first rule of the pattern. You can fake the value of currency for a while, but you cannot fake the silver content forever. Eventually, the market demands the metal, and when the metal is gone, the empire dies. Most Americans don't know that the US government declared war on silver 150 years ago. It is known in history books as the crime of 1873. Before 1873, the United States was on a bimetallic standard. You could use gold or silver as money. The Constitution explicitly states in Article 1, Section 10, that no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. Silver was the people's money. It was plentiful, it was useful, and it prevented the banks from controlling the entire money supply. But the big banks in New York and London hated silver. Why? Because silver was too hard to control. New silver mines were being discovered in Nevada, the Comstock lode. If miners could bring silver to the mint and turn it into money, the money supply would grow independently of the banks. The bankers wanted a gold standard because they held the gold. If they could demonetize silver, they would contract the money supply, make debts harder to pay, and foreclose on millions of farmers and small businesses. So they bribed Congress. In 1873, under the cover of a routine coinage act, Congress quietly omitted the standard silver dollar from the list of authorized coins. They effectively demonetized silver without a single public debate. The result was catastrophic for the people, but profitable for the banks. The money supply contracted. We entered a massive deflationary depression. Farmers who owed debts found that the dollar was getting stronger because it was scarce, making their debts impossible to pay. This led to the Panic of 1893 and the rise of the populist movement. William Jennings Bryan famously said in 1896, "You shall not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold." He was fighting against the banker-controlled gold standard and for the return of silver. Why does this matter today? Because it proves that the suppression of silver is not a new phenomenon. It is a structural feature of the American financial system. The establishment hates silver because silver represents monetary freedom. When silver rises, the banking cartel loses control. The crime of 1873 was the beginning of the paper money era. It was the moment the government decided that they decide what money is, not the market. And every financial crisis since then, 1913, 1929, 1971, 2008, can be traced back to the decision to cut the link between money and physical reality. Now, let's look at what happens when the suppression finally breaks. Weimar Germany, 1923. We all know the photos of people wheeling barrows of cash to buy bread. But what happened to silver? During the hyperinflation, the German mark became worthless, but silver did not. In 1919, 1 ounce of silver cost 12 marks. By November 1923, 1 ounce of silver cost 543 billion marks. Here is the key. The silver didn't change. The silver bought the same amount of bread in 1923 as it did in 1919. The currency died around it. Silver acted as the lifeboat. Those who held paper lost everything. Those who held silver preserved 100% of their purchasing power. But the most important lesson comes from 1980. This is the closest parallel to today. In the late 1970s, inflation in the US was out of control, stage 5. People were losing faith in the dollar. The Hunt brothers, 2 Texas oil tycoons, looked at the math. They saw that the government was printing money and that silver was undervalued. They started buying. They didn't buy paper silver futures, they took delivery. They loaded physical silver onto planes and flew it to Switzerland. They drained the COMEX vaults. The price went from 6 Oz in 1979 to 50 Oz in January 1980. In today's inflation-adjusted dollars, that $50 peak is roughly $170. The system panicked. The regulators realized that if silver kept rising, it would expose the dollar as worthless. So they changed the rules. The COMEX declared liquidation-only trading. You could sell silver, but you couldn't buy it. They forced the price down by regulatory fiat. They crushed the Hunt brothers and crashed the price back to $10. They saved the dollar by destroying the silver market. But here's the difference between 1980 and 2025. In 1980, the US had 20% interest rates to save the dollar. Today, we have $36 trillion in debt. We cannot raise rates to 20%. In 1980, the Hunt brothers were speculators. Today, the buyers aren't speculators. They are industrial companies like Samsung, Tesla, and Apple who need the silver to build products. You can ban the Hunt brothers from buying. You cannot ban Apple from buying. The 1980 suppression worked because it was a financial game. The 2025 crisis is a physical reality. We are now in stage 5, transitioning to stage 6. The setup is perfect. On one side, we have the green energy paradox. Governments worldwide are mandating a transition to solar power and electric vehicles. This isn't a suggestion, it's law. A solar panel requires roughly 20 grams of silver. An electric vehicle uses up to 50 grams, nearly double a gas car. AI servers and 5G towers require massive amounts of silver for conductivity. According to the Silver Institute, industrial demand grew 11% last year to a record high. Solar demand alone has tripled since 2015. On the other side, we have supply destruction. Silver mining has been flat for a decade. Most silver is a byproduct of zinc and lead mining. We aren't opening new zinc mines, so we aren't getting new silver. The ore grades are declining. We have to dig deeper to find less. In 2024, the silver market ran a deficit of nearly 150 million ounces. That means we consumed 150 million more ounces than we mined. This is the 4th year of deficit in a row. Where is the extra silver coming from? It's coming from the above-ground stockpiles. It's coming from the vaults in London and New York. We are eating our seed corn. This is the trap. The government wants green energy, but green energy requires silver. The government also wants a strong dollar, which requires suppressed silver prices. They cannot have both. If they suppress the price, miners won't mine, and the shortage gets worse. If they let the price rise to incentivize mining, the truth teller signal flashes and confidence in the dollar collapses. They are trapped by their own policies, and the drain on the vaults proves it. This brings us to the flashpoint, the COMEX. The COMEX, commodity exchange, is where the price of silver is set. But it is a casino. They trade paper contracts representing billions of ounces, but the actual amount of registered silver, metal that is ready to be delivered, has collapsed. In early 2021, COMEX registered silver inventories stood at nearly 150 million ounces. Today, that number hovers around 30 to 40 million ounces. That is a decline of over 70%. 30 million ounces sounds like a lot, but at current prices, $30 AUD, that is less than $1 billion worth of silver. Elon Musk could buy all the registered silver on the COMEX with the loose change in his couch cushions. Apple has enough cash on hand to buy the entire COMEX inventory 150 times over. The coverage ratio, the number of paper claims for every physical ounce, is skyrocketing. Some analysts estimate there are 300 to 400 paper ounces traded for every 1 real ounce available. This is a game of musical chairs. As long as the music plays, as long as investors trade paper, the game continues. But when the music stops, when industries demand physical delivery, there are 399 people left standing in only 1 chair. When that happens, the price doesn't go up by 10% or 20%. It re-rates. It gaps up. It moves instantly from the suppressed paper price to the physical reality price. That is where the number $74 comes in. If you adjust the 1980 high for inflation, the real value of silver is roughly $170. But $74 is the technical breakout level. It is the point where the short sellers, the banks manipulating the price, are mathematically insolvent. It is the margin call from hell. When silver hits $74, the computer algorithms that control the global financial markets will recognize that the US dollar has lost its anchor. It is the signal that stage 6, loss of confidence, is complete, and stage 7, collapse, has begun. So, what happens next? We are watching a slow-motion train wreck that is about to speed up. The deficits are structural, the demand is mandated by law, the supply is shrinking, and the paper manipulation is running out of physical metal to sell. My prediction is this: within the next 18 to 24 months, we will see a failure to deliver on the COMEX. A major industrial buyer or a sovereign nation will ask for their silver, and the exchange will say, "We don't have it, take cash instead." When that news breaks, the paper market will die. The price of silver will decouple. The spot price on your screen might say $30, but you won't be able to buy an ounce of physical silver for less than $100. Then the spot price will chase the physical price. $50, $74, and $100. At 74, the panic begins. Not panic buying of silver, but panic selling of dollars. Foreign central banks will see the signal. They will dump U.S. treasuries at an accelerated rate. The bond market will crash. Yields will spike. The Federal Reserve will be forced to print not billions, but trillions to save the bond market. That printing will be the fuel that sends silver to levels we cannot imagine. This is stage 7, the replacement. The dollar dies, and the world moves to a new system, likely backed by a basket of commodities, including gold and silver. This is the pattern. It happened in Rome. It happened in France. It happened in Weimar. It is happening here. You have a brief window of opportunity. The price is still suppressed. The signal is flashing, but the explosion hasn't happened yet. Do not buy paper silver, SLV, ETFs. They are part of the scam. If you cannot hold it in your hand, you do not own it. Buy physical silver, coins, bars, rounds. Buy it not to get rich, but to survive. Buy it because when the music stops, you want to be the one holding the chair, not the one holding the paper, claim to a chair that doesn't exist. The math is undeniable. The history is irrefutable. Silver at $74 is the destination. The only question is, will you be positioned before we get there? The collapse is happening. Stage 6 is here. Subscribe to this channel to track the countdown. I will see you in the next video, assuming the dollar is still worth the electricity to stream it.